Well, good morning, everyone. Oscar Subratz here from College Prospects of America. We're going to get started today with the webinar. Thank you for being here this morning from wherever you're visiting us today. And so let's just get started. Today we're going to talk about, as you received the email, myths and realities of college recruiting. Just a quick intro. My name is Oscar Subratz. I am the president of College Prospects of America. And we are bringing you this webinar today in conjunction with the IJGT, the International Junior Golf Tour. And basically today we're just going to cover some quick points on just things you need to know about the recruiting process, how you can increase your chances of getting that awesome school that you're looking for, and that you can compete in college. You can actually get to play college golf. Now, beware, I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm here to give you a very objective look at the recruiting process and how you can avoid some of the myths, some of the pitfalls on this process. So with each slide I pass, you're going to see first the myth, then you're going to see the reality, and then you're going to see the key point that I want to make today that you need to do to make sure that you don't fall into one of those myths and pitfalls. Now, some of you are going to be in one of those myths and pitfalls, and some of you are getting started in the process, and I want you to try to avoid them. And others, if you're already moving along the recruiting process and you see a red flag that you've done, well, you can reach out to us after the webinar, and we can certainly help you overcome that. I've muted all microphones so that I can't hear any background noise. I know most of you are at home. I don't want to hear the dogs, or I don't want to hear background noise. So I've muted the microphones, and at the end, I will open for Q&A. So let's get started with our first myth. I'm going to make this just a little bit larger for you, for our visitors. So myth number one is you hear that if you want to play in college, it's about researching where you want to play. I hear this all the time, whether it be through your counselor or your coach or a book or a recruiting site. Usually the traditional method says, well, you just start looking at researching the schools where you want to go. You need to be happy, and it's all about you. And that's one of the biggest myths there are in this process if you actually want to play in college, okay? So because unless you're a golfer being highly, highly recruited, this really can be a waste of time. Now, I know some of you are thinking, wait, this is against what I've been told. Well, I'm here to tell you, again, not what you want to hear. I'm here to tell you objectively that for many golfers, this is a waste of time. Because people make the mistake. They say, well, where do I want to go? Where do I want to play? And then they target those schools. So let me go a little bit further in that. But just if you see at the bottom of the screen there, I like to just add a little note that telling you what to do will not lead you to success. So a lot of the times in my webinars, I'm not going to give you exactly what to do. I'm going to give you the tools and the proven tools that will help you have success, because we've proven this over and over and over again, okay? So let's look at the reality of that myth. The reality is that most families, when they target those schools where they want to go, they end up competing for one or two spots, or one or two, spots for with kids from not only locally, nationally, but today from all over the world. Now, I want you to understand that we help kids from all over the world, so we are aware, and I'm sure so are you, that college golf is an international complete in your area, or you may be even a top kid in the US, but you are competing with the top kids from not one, not two, not three, but from lots of countries in the world. So you have to keep that in mind, that as you research those schools, you're probably researching from everywhere. So you're competing for very few spots on everyone else's wish list. And I've done this before in many conferences, as many seminars, that I say, can you name me 5, 6 schools? And I will go around the room, and a lot of the kids will be naming the same schools if they're from a particular state or a particular area. So be very, very careful on, creating your wish list. So what ends up happening is that since most of these kids are competing for the same roster spots, they end up walking on the team because you won't get recruited because those coaches are looking for those top kids, 1 or 2 spots. So a lot of kids, because they had their wish list, they end up walking on the team. And here's the sad thing about that. You may be a great golfer. You could have a great opportunity to play at a wonderful school. But many players that walk onto a school they want to play at end up paying a high price for a roster spot at a school they won't play at. And if that happens to your son or daughter, their end result 6 months, 1 year from now could end up that they simply quit the team and they quit golf altogether, because in reality they're not really on the travel team, or they're not really on the team. They're at a roster spot, but that doesn't mean they're playing. So if you invested so much money, so much time throughout your son or daughter's golf career, this is a scenario you don't really want, where 6 months down the road, they're calling you and saying, well, Mom, Dad, I'm gonna quit the team because I'm not really gonna play. Well, the reason that happened is because your wish list was on a school where you probably didn't qualify and ended up walking on. So recruiting success action plan point number 1 this morning, to avoid that myth, that pitfall, and to make playing college golf a reality, is you're better choosing off schools you hardly knew existed and further away from home than those schools that everyone knows exist close to home. The key to actually playing college golf is finding schools, now here's the key, regardless of their division, that would be interested in recruiting you. So it works the other way around. It's not about what I want. It's not about the school that I want. It's about what coaches somewhere in America, somewhere in the US, want me. Okay? So those may be schools that I don't know about, that I've never heard existed, that, maybe in different divisions. I have to branch out. So success in the recruiting process is about finding the schools they want a player with a profile like you, and not the traditional way around, where you're told to seek out the schools that you want. And so that's point number 1. By the time I get through my other points, how to do this is going to make a lot of sense. Myth number 2. If you want to play college golf, many coaches are seeking talented kids with potential. And I hear this all the time. We hear this all the time. It is actually quite frustrating when we're sitting in front of mom or a dad or talking to a prospect at a tournament, and they say to us, well, I know that my son is undeveloped, or my daughter, she's got a lot of potential, and if those coaches see her, they're going to discover that talent in her stroke and her swing, and she's got, she can hit a 7-iron so far, and well, I know they'll be interested. And parents kind of chase that dream. So if you're looking to play college golf, you have to be very careful with that. Now, talent and potential go a long way, don't get me wrong, and I don't want to discourage you today. I'm here to bring you a little bit of the bad news, and then at the end I'm going to bring you some great news. But many people will tell you to research and compare your scores on the internet to scores on your wish list. So see how that is just steering you the wrong direction. So first they told you to grab your wish list or to find those schools that you want to go at. Then a lot of people will tell you, go on the internet, go on certain sites that you can research or compare your scores. And if you shoot those scores or similar scores, or if you shoot those scores every once in a while, or in that one wonderful, great tournament, you shot that one-time score, then hey, you could actually qualify for that school. Reach out to the coaches because and here's the saying, they say, there's other players on the team that are as good as you. So this is a big pitfall. Because if you can shoot similar scores, the thought is, and you have talent and potential, the coach may say, well, this is an undeveloped player and I can develop them. And, 1 year or 2 years down the road, they'll be, wonderful on my team. So this is a huge myth. And let me show you the reality behind this. The reality is that for coaches at many of the top schools, and when I say a top school, I'm not talking about the school that's winning the NCAAs. I'm talking about the top school in your area. All right, so I just branched out to lots of schools. So, when I say top schools, people might think, I'm talking about those top 10 Division I programs. I'm talking about if you live in Iowa, well, I'm talking about the top schools in Iowa. If you live in New Jersey, I'm talking about the top schools in New Jersey. If you're to live in South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida, or anywhere in the West Coast, I'm talking about the top schools in your state, in your area. So what ends up happening is that you may ask someone in Iowa what their top schools are, and they're going to name their top schools in Iowa. Or if you're in South Carolina, I'm going to name you the top school in South Carolina. So these schools, for most of them, it's all about the scores. Now, I cannot emphasize that enough. I've been personally at, we're invited every year to the Golf Coach Association National Convention. I've spoken at that convention a couple of times. And what we continuously hear from coaches at most of these schools, they're really just interested about the scores. What are you shooting at the tournaments? Everything else kind of becomes irrelevant at first. Then if you shoot great scores and you're talented, it's different. So coaches don't need to take a chance on Susie or Jim with talent potential. They can choose from hundreds of kids that have awesome scores. So, they have 1 or 2 spots. They don't have time to take that chance. They don't need to take that chance. And if you see scores on the internet that you can shoot, that some players on that team shoot, well, guess what? If that player is not on the top of, the best player on the team, usually coaches every year are looking to recruit kids better than the ones they already have on their team. Even the schools that are not the top schools are looking for 1 or 2 kids to improve their teams, to improve the rankings, to win tournaments. So if this number 6 kid on that team is shooting scores like you, well, coach is not usually looking for another bottom of the line kid. He's looking for a kid better than that so he can, improve his team. And, again, this is an eye-opener. It's very direct, but I'm here to help you and to show you what the reality is. Okay, and we've heard it over and over and seen it over and over and over directly with college coaches. So at most Division I programs, and certainly top Division II programs, coaches are looking to win tournaments, not to develop players. Now, of course, there are some coaches out there that are looking to develop players, but I'm talking about the majority of coaches are not there to develop players. So recruiting success action plan point number 2 is there are many, here's the good news, there are many programs that are not looking for the top prospects. Rather, they're just looking for good to great golfers or average golfers. And in some cases, not so great golfers. Maybe you're shooting low 70s. Maybe you're shooting mid-high 80s. Regardless, there are schools out there looking for those types of players. They really are, okay? But usually if you've created your wish list and researched on the internet, you're usually not looking at those schools. In our experience, you're looking at schools. They're really just looking at scores. The key to actually playing college golf is to branch out and think beyond what your friends, coaches, or most books or websites tell you to do. Now, I've been there, okay? And I understand the peer pressure a lot of you are going through, that you have to play at a Division I, that you have to play at a Division II. You know, some of your colleagues, some of your friends, some of the kids on your team, in your academy, you know, in your club will tell, well, you can't go to that school. Or, no, you have to play here. Or, no, if it's not a Division I or a Division II or a school in Florida, well, that doesn't, it's no good. That's nonsense. It's actually ignorance is what it is. You have to branch out. This is about your future. This is about you playing college golf. This is about your education. It's not about what everyone else thinks or what your coach wants you to do or what your counselor wants you to do. It's about what you and your parents would like to do for your future. So you have to branch out and think beyond that and say, where do I really qualify to play college golf, to get an education? So you have to branch out and find schools that you have not thought about and you did not know they existed in areas you have not even considered. So I'll give you an example. I grew up in Texas, so one of the reasons, you know, I've been in the recruiting world for over 20 years, or close to 20 years, a little bit older than I look. But when I grew up in Texas, just like every other Texas kid, I want to go to a Texas school. So what happens to me? I research the top Texas schools. I fall through the myths. I fall through the pitfalls that I'm talking about today. And as many kids still do today. And what happens? I don't get to play at a Texas school because everybody wants to play at a Texas school. And it's gotten even more competitive today. But if I'm from Texas, man, there's coaches from other states that would love to have me. Why? Because I'm playing at a high level in Texas. So if I'm from California, I probably not need to shy away from the California schools. If I live in Florida, I probably need to, and I'm not saying don't put those on your wish list. I'm saying branch out, have a couple kids at schools on your wish list in Florida, but you need to branch out to other schools in other states that would love to have a Florida kid. They would love to have a Texas kid, a South Carolina kid, a North Carolina kid. They would love to have you. You just don't know you exist. All right? So let's move on to myth number 3. Myth number 3 is if you want to play college golf, do the following. It worked for Joe, and it's the only proven way of getting noticed. Now, I love this one. I love the experts out there that think that they are the one-stop solution for every family, or that they know the one-stop solution for every family to get noticed and to play college golf. Because it worked for Joe, it worked for Susie, or because this is the only proven way. This is a terrible pitfall, okay? It's a terrible myth. And a lot of times if you hear this, you have to wonder what's behind it, okay? So some people will tell you a sure way to get recruited is to go to a combine. Combines are great. They're one way. Some people will tell you to go to a certain golf academy, to a certain recruiting website, to buy a certain book, to read a certain something, to go on campus visits, to email coaches. If you play these tournaments, you will get noticed. You've heard that before. No, you have to. You have to make the investment to play that tournament or to go to that combine. You will get recruited. Or they'll tell you, no, don't do any of those things. Just I'll help you. I've got the contacts. You know, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. I've got contacts with coaches. They will tell you this or that way, or this way doesn't work, or that way is, you know, it didn't work for Susie, or that way is just a waste of time. Look, here's the reality. I'm not here to discredit any one of those. They all are great avenues to getting recruited. But the point that I'm trying to make today is if you ask 10 different people, you will get usually 10 different answers. So I invite you, go ask 10 different people. And you will usually say, one person will say, go to the combine, another person will say, play this tournament, the other play. So you have to be careful to listen to just one of those. Okay, so here's the reality. There are many avenues that you can take to get noticed. Many avenues. I named some great avenues. The reality is that there is no one proven method that works for everyone. And I'm telling you, I've been in this for close to 20 years, and there's not one proven method that works for everyone to get noticed. With the amount of competition to get recruited from kids from all over the world and the amount of emails coaches receive, you have to use as many avenues as possible. Use them all if you can. Now I know what you're thinking, Oscar, this is expensive to use all those avenues. You know, we want Susie or Joe to get recruited, but we don't want to spend more money. We don't want to invest more money. We just want it to happen. Well, I'm here to tell you today that you got to change your thinking. Getting noticed today is an investment. It's like getting better at golf. It's not just going to happen, and it probably hasn't been cheap in dollars and time, in dollars and or in time. Think about all you've invested throughout your life in golf, in academics, tournaments, traveling, clubs, coach, pro, tours. It's been investment the whole time. So to me, it gets me to my core, honestly, when families have invested all that time and money, and then when it comes to getting recruited, they just kind of expect for it to happen, or they depend solely on one avenue, and they put their hopes on their coach, or they put their hopes on one tournament, or they put their hopes on one academy, or they put their hopes on one combine. You really have to try to get as many avenues as possible to get recruited. It really is an investment in time and money. Okay, so here's the recruiting action plan number 3 point. It rarely happens just by knocking on a few doors. The more avenues you take, the more chances you will have to get noticed and ultimately recruited. Whether it is playing a combine, buying a recruiting service, playing IJGT events, getting your coach to help you, researching on the internet and emailing coaches, the more exposure you will receive. So what I'm saying is that being recruited takes time. It's a proactive process. And the more avenues you search for, simply the more exposure you will receive. Okay? So don't close your eyes. Don't close your opportunity to an open door simply because someone told you that there's another avenue that always works. Because not every avenue works for every person. There's people that invest time and money in certain avenues that don't work for them, and they probably would have been better off in another avenue. So the key to actually playing college golf is exposure. The more exposure you have to opportunities that you did not know existed, the more likely you will be to find the program that works for you. All right? Myth number 4, and I love this one. Now we got we have 4 points to cover today. This is the 4th point, so we're almost to the end of our webinar here. But I think this one is crucial, and that's why it's really at the end. The myth is if you want to play college golf, if you want to get recruited, you need to focus on getting the best offer. And I've heard people say that it's like, well, you got to focus on, on getting that offer, and there's scholarships out there. You got to focus on getting that scholarship, and you got to ask coach for the scholarship, and you got to tell them you're looking for a full ride, or I'm telling you, that is a huge myth. One of the biggest mistakes in the process is focusing on a scholarship. This is a huge turnoff for coaches, okay? If you focus on the scholarship, you literally will miss the big picture. I'm telling you, you will miss the big picture. And that big picture is that you have to get an education for your future, not a scholarship. Now, I know some of you are thinking, well, how am I going to pay for college? Well, I'm going to get to that. But scholarships are a means to an end. That end is getting an education, playing or getting to actually play college golf. Now, I've said it several times, actually playing college golf. Why did I have that in parentheses in the presentation? Is because there's a difference between having a roster spot, sitting on a bench, or on the sidelines, or in the clubhouse, and not getting to actually play college golf. Yeah, you could say, well, I'm on the team, but if you're not really on the team, if you're not really playing those tournaments, you're not really playing college golf. Okay, and it might be nice to go home and say, well, I play for X school, but if you don't really play for that school, you're not really playing college golf. So I want you to actually play college golf to continue the sport that you love, okay? And so if you focus on the scholarship, a lot of times you're going to create a pitfall, a myth, and you're not going to play college golf. All right, so let me keep going, and this all makes sense. When talking to coaches, you need to ask questions about their school and not about the scholarship. So let's keep going on. Let's talk about the reality of this, of why this is such a huge myth, okay? The reality. Let me make this a little bit smaller so you can see it. Coaches want to know that you're interested in their school, okay? And finding the right place and not just the money. Remember I said that scholarships are kind of the end of the process. Now, obviously, it's during the process that happens, but it's just kind of something that if you do things right, that is just the means to the end. It is the process that happens. It's not the beginning of the process. So it's hard not to focus on the scholarship, especially with the cost of an education nowadays. But remember, it's all about finding a school that you can afford, where you can play at, and that you will be happy with. That is your focus. If you focus on that, you may actually get a scholarship. Because if you focus on finding a school that you can afford, where you will actually qualify at, and coach is actually interested in you because you qualify at that school, you may actually get a scholarship. If you fall through the first three pitfalls that I talked about, you're going to end up probably walking on a team, not play college golf, because you focused on something else. There are many affordable schools that you probably have not considered and that your parents could probably afford even without a scholarship. Now, what I'm saying there is that if you're looking for that dream school, well, you're probably, some of you may be able to afford the dream school, but for a lot of us, we may not be able to afford that dream school. So if we're shooting for that dream school, and my parents can't afford it, then I'm falling into a pitfall. But if I research correctly, then there are schools that if you do a budget correctly, you might say, well, I could probably afford that school. So let's keep going on this, and it's got to make sense at the end. A scholarship means nothing if you end up at a school where you're not happy with. And that's just the point, okay? You can have a scholarship and not be happy at a school because you focused on, well, I got to get a scholarship. I got to go home and tell everybody that I got an offer. I got to tell my coach that I got recruited. Well, it doesn't matter if you're not happy at that school, okay? So when you focus on the scholarship, I've had kids that, they get recruited with an offer at a school that is not right for them because they got recruited, they got a scholarship, but they probably would have been happy at another school just paying a little bit more money or some more money. Okay, so here's recruiting success action plan number 4. The key to actually playing college golf is to set a realistic budget, taking into consideration all costs, and then reach out to those schools that meet the right budget. I love this last part in this webinar. If you end up with a scholarship, so if you end up with a scholarship at that school, then you win. And if you don't, you can still afford the school because you targeted one within your family's budget. Either way, you win. Now, let me rephrase that. If I reach out to schools I don't qualify at, that are out of my budget, that I really won't play at, which is what most kids do and most families do, which is why a majority of kids do not end up playing college golf. What's going to happen is if you don't get a scholarship, you won't play college golf. You lose. But you can win twice if you select a school where you can actually probably play at, if you set a realistic budget of how much you can afford for college, and if you choose a school within that budget and you get recruited by that school without a scholarship, you can go to college and play golf. You win. You win. Now, if you actually get a scholarship at that school, you really win, because now you have the school that you could have afforded, that you can play at, and now it's costing you a lot less than the budget you had set. So when you're setting a budget, really set a budget. Think about every single cost that your son or daughter undertakes every single year. Every cost, okay? From the Starbucks to the movies, to the tournaments, to the clubs, to the think about every single dollar that son or daughter is costing you, okay, today. And set a realistic budget. Because if you can find a school within that budget, you're going to win. And usually, if you do that, a lot of times, like I said, it's a means to an end. A lot of times you're going to get recruited at that school, get some money, you win. Okay? So those are the 4 points I wanted to cover today. And again, there's a lot of stuff I could cover, a lot. And today I'm just trying to give you 4 things that people really, because of all the peer pressure, because of everything around, a lot of families fall to these. I really took the time to find 4 things that, are a constant issue when we're talking to families. All right? So just here at the end, I want to tell you a little bit of why do you need help in the recruiting process? I've shown you 4 pitfalls. Some of you are in those pitfalls. Some of you are starting the process early. Some of you are already, far ahead. But a lot of you are navigating this process by yourself. And if you are, I'm here to tell you why you need help in the recruiting process. And I told you there's lots of avenues that you can take. In those avenues, you need to be searching for help and for ways that you can make this process more efficient. And if you see the little, make this a little bit bigger. Again, if you're navigating this by yourself, you're kind of just expecting or hoping that this will happen. And it can happen. I've given you some very important points and some key action plans that you can take to make this happen. But the reality is that if you're navigating by yourself, you have a lot of questions. You probably have few options. You have probably a lot of myths. You're probably running into some barriers. You're probably asking a lot of people, how do I do this? How do I do that? What do you think about this? And you're without a real action plan. You're without a direction. But most of all, here's the key thing, that most families, they just kind of expect for this to happen, that are depending on one avenue, that are depending for it to just kind of fall for the sky, for Susie to get noticed at the next tournament, for the coach to, get them an opportunity for that, for that email to come back. Those are all wonderful avenues. But the reality is that your future is kind of in your hands in a process that you may actually not have the experience to do. So I like to think if you reached out and had some help, then it changes everything. Because if you're not the only one navigating that process, you can get real objective answers. You can have several to many options at schools that you qualify at. You will not fall into myths and barriers. Your future is in your hands, but being helped with the direction of people that know the process. And you can have an action plan. So I just invite you today, at the end of this webinar, at the left side of your screen, you see a thing that says Find the Right School. Okay? Now, you can log in for free. Just go right now to www.mycpoa.com, and you can learn a little bit more about how College Prospects of America can help you achieve this process. What we do is we help you achieve success in the recruiting process by finding you more options and then providing personalized guidance to success. So basically, you're here, getting recruited is here, everything that's in the middle is probably what you need help with. And so I just invite you to take the next step and download our free college roadmap. You can do it. You don't have to speak to anyone. You could just go online and do that now. And again, mycpoa.com, log in. You can download our free college roadmap. There's going to be a lot more information of what I talked about today. And if you do nothing and you at least download this college roadmap, I think it's really going to help you because it really is going to take you step by step to what you need to do from step 1 to step 10 to get recruited. It really is. So I invite you to do that today. Again, it's a free download directly at mycpoa.com. Now, if you would like for us to reach out to you and tell you how we can help you get recruited, go have efficiency in this process, and you want that help to find you more options and help you navigate those myths, those barriers, then once you're online, I invite you to, you can do at the bottom, there's a click to call me, our phone number, or you can simply send us an email and we will be happy to reach out to you. All right, so with that said, thank you very much for attending the webinar. That is it for me. What I'm going to do now is open up a session for questions. And if anyone has any questions about anything in the recruiting process, I will be more than happy to answer those and help you today with whatever you need. So right now, I'm going to open it up for questions. Thank you very much. Anyway, I was glad and happy to be able to answer those questions for you guys. Thank you very much for being with us this morning, and I wish you nothing but success in your college opportunity and the best of success. And if there's anything that we can do to help you, please reach out. Have a great day. Bye-bye.